everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Eggs. Today it's me, Ryan, and special guest Mike. What's up, dude?
Hey, shocker, right?
Yeah, I know,
We're
right?
both here.
Well, we had a cancellation this week, and we decided it would be a good idea to put together some new live content anyway. Sometimes when this happens, you'll notice that we'll publish a greatest hits kind of episode, go back and replay something older that we've done. Typically, those are run in place of a cancellation or something like that because we don't have time to put something together. But today we're making time to get together and just rap for a little bit. So
and those of you who have followed us for a while, you might be sad that we didn't put an Eggies Award out this year, and that is 100% my fault because I'm too busy. So,
well, you know what? I'm going to let you take the blame actually entirely because I don't want to admit it, but I totally forgot about the Eggies.
I remembered, but I didn't want to bring it up.
We should run an Eggies classic.
There we go. We'll repeat last year's.
Yeah. No. Anyway, no. The Eggies are something. Obviously, this will be a weird year. I was working, and obviously, one of the things that happened over the Christmas break was that I was sort of let go from the startup that I was working at, myself and some other people. And so that kind of threw a hiccup into the end of season events. And, so I think that unfortunately it was kind of far from the mind. So, and Mike's in the middle of a giant renovation project and getting ready to move and some other things. And so I think between the two of us, we probably had very little bandwidth to think about the Eggies this year. So maybe we'll have to do a mid-season thank you to everybody who was on the show.
I thought about it and I was like, I'm not even going to bring it up because I don't have time. I don't have it. It's a whole day of downloading content, chopping it up, finding the section, adding the sound effects, and
it's a lot. Well, and for people who haven't maybe or are kind of new to the show and maybe haven't seen it, what the Eggies is basically our annual award show where we go back and we kind of feature and showcase some of the people who came on the show that year and highlight them. We give all kinds of stupid awards like best marketing podcast or best whatever. And, and it's usually fun and it's a nice way to tell our guests thank you and go back and, highlight some of the top content of the year. Last year, we probably had more of our classic episodes run than maybe we've ever had. And a big part of that was workload and stuff like that. We also had a lot of cancellations and people moving around and all kinds of stuff. So there was all sorts of things going on that kind of led to a weird year last year in general. So, I'm excited for this year. I think it'll be a little bit more normal.
We did have a lot of really good interviews last year as well that were just like top notch. I think my favorite to date probably is Josh Rogerson, Tiny Desk Guy. That just was a really cool conversation up my alley. I don't know if one stood out in particular to you, not to throw you on the spot.
I think the one that I was most happy to kind of pull together it was something we'd actually worked on for some time, but I was glad to see finally come together, was with Jason DeVore from Zero.
Okay, so, that one's tied. Two top ones.
Rogerson, sorry, I screwed up his name on game day ttoo. I screwed it up now, so I'm probably not getting it right now either. But his story is really great because, of course Mike's interested in that topic. He's an audio engineer and they have a lot in common, obviously. And few people have done it at the level of Josh. So his story is very cool. And one of the things I really liked about that episode of ours too is just the added production to that. We shared a clip of Josh's thing. And so it made for like a fun multimedia experience. We did some of the same things on Jason's, which was cool. But
most of the time when we have a musician or someone who creates content like that, we try and highlight their content at the beginning of the episode. So whenever we've had other band members or lead singers, Vaden, Mink Rebellion, OPM, all those guys. Yeah, we always add their music. He gets it every week.
So I think probably Jason is up there, mostly because for people who've really followed the show, we were doing sort of rough math on this, and I think we'll hit 8 years this year.
Oh my God,
which is insane. So in the last basically 7 years, we have no doubt talked about Jason and Authority Zero, I don't know, dozens of times over the years.
Well, it was like try number 3 or 4 when we finally got him on.
I know
because we had scheduled it
several years ago, and then we rescheduled once, and then we even went down and met him at his tour bus
in Salt Lake,
and that didn't work
twice, I think.
Yeah, so it's So his was like a very elusive one, but also just like, I mean, you'll have to go back and listen to that episode. But I mean, part of what makes that one so interesting is that we had this weird sort of parallel life where we were in places where he was all the time, but never really got the opportunity to connect.
We weren't like homies. We didn't hang out a bunch, but we met him probably 50 times.
Yeah, it's all the same circles, all the same shows, all the same whatever. But for whatever reason, we never got, I mean, we should be best friends by all measures. So anyway, so that was probably my top one of the year, or maybe the most memorable one, I should say. I mean, there's lots of people who contributed in other ways that I think we covered a lot of valuable ground in this year, but or last year in 2024. But so I don't know. Maybe we'll have to put together a Eggies. We'll run it in March or something when we've got some time to come up for air. So because it would be good to sort of just give some of those people a shout out.
Yeah, for sure.
So cool. Well, so what else is new with you, Mike? So I know you've been doing like massive renovation work at the house.
And so we're going to be selling the house in April, or it's for sale if anyone wants to buy it in the state it is.
Buy it now so that Mike doesn't have to finish.
Yeah, I'll just leave it. We'll take 10 grand off of your set. I'm doing backsplash in the kitchen. I'm doing new handrails on the stairs. I'm doing resurfacing the hardwood floors. We're going to redo the garage cement because it's cracked from 50 years of use. And so we're going to cut that out and re-pour a slab. Right now I'm redoing the basement bathroom. If you can see on the couch behind me that I have lights for in the ceiling. I did the plumbing in the shower last night, and we're floating a new like, instead of a prefab shower pan, I literally I used mortar and I did a pre-slope in the shower last night, and then I'm going to put a waterproof membrane down, and then I can tile directly over it. And we're doing a tile shower, tile walls. I don't know what I'm going to do for this floor. I haven't found a tile that I want to use, and I'm going to do granite countertop for the sink. And
yeah, no, it's awesome. But some of the photos that Mike has sent over to me, I mean, it's just like he's literally jackhammering out the floor in the bathroom and stuff. I mean, it's just awful. It's like not just throwing up a new coat of paint. Like,
well, the P-trap is under the concrete, and it's 50 years of just nastiness going down in it. And I figured,
well, for people who aren't homeowners, that's not like a fancy name for the toilet. The P-trap is actually like a little, it's a bend in the pipe.
Yeah, it holds the water, keeps the sewer gases from coming through so you don't smell them. It just holds a little bit of water in there and creates like a shutoff valve. And then when you add water to it, it goes and finishes down. But I'm really glad that I took the jackhammer and cut that out and put a new P-trap in, because when I cut it out, that thing was clogged solid. Like, I'm surprised water was still going through it. It would have been a real shame to do all that work and then have the person who bought the house have to tear it all out and put a new P-trap in. So I went ahead, I did that in the downstairs in the concrete, and then I also did the upstairs tub and replaced that one as well while I was at it. So plumbing shouldn't be an issue going forward, which is good.
Well, and it's awesome. I mean, for a house that's like 50 years or something old, and I mean, basically, I mean, people don't.
Probably closer to 70.
Closer to 70 years old. Yeah. It's in a part of Southeast Idaho that, I mean, the lot that his parents are on that is just beautiful. It's, got junipers everywhere and stuff. It's a really nice area. Yeah. And so to take a house like that and sort of, I guess modernize it a little bit it'll be a cool opportunity for whoever gets to buy it.
Yeah, it's the landscaping that I've done is like a 10-year project. Not even 10 years, probably 7 years is how much I put into it. But
yeah, for people that have followed along with this show, I mean, you can see varying stages of it. I wish I could remember the guy's name right off, but we had a guy come over to Mike's house to do an interview one time.
It was the Pulse Line Adventure and DJ Cam.
Yeah, shoot, I can't remember the guy's name. Sorry, I'll have to look it up. But but anyway, dude came over to Mike's house and he was doing renovations then, and that was really early in the show.
Yeah.
And he had already put down some flagstone and stuff outside the place, but he's proceeded to do stairs and terrace the yard and put in big boulders and do all this stuff.
Have you seen the uplights yet?
I saw a picture on Instagram or something of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just awesome. I mean,
I've got all the junipers in the driveway and in the backyard. On the flagstone path, I have lights up lighting the rock wall at night, so you can actually see the path. Because if there's no light, you're like walking into darkness. And it's on the smartphone, which is dope because
awesome.
I can be at your house in Salt Lake and turn the lights on and off.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, this house is, it's a really cool spot, and it'd be a cool place to live. I mean, it's just far enough outside of the city that you get a little bit of like, I remember driving out there one time and being accosted by like a herd of turkeys crossing the road. Like, you still get a little bit of nature out there.
That's daily.
And, so it's kind of it's a cool spot to be because you're near enough the city to get in, but you get all the kind of the perks of being out of town too. So
it's also right above the golf course. And in this area right here, since the house has been in the family since the 50s, 56, I think. The lot itself is the largest lot in the subdivision that we're in. And so with the view, with the lot size, with all the renovations that we've done, it's a desirable piece of property, which is good to.
Well, yeah. Anybody dying to move to Southeast Idaho and get away from the big cities, you California guys know I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Although they do
come
get
on out
in this neck of the woods on occasion, you get a little PTSD, I suppose. But no, it's a great spot. And so if you're ever, or if anybody's interested in learning more or whatever, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What about you? You've had a rough couple weeks.
Rough kickoff. I sort of alluded to it a few minutes ago, but basically the deal is for about the last 8 months, I've been working with a tech startup, and I should say for 2 years and 8 months, I've been working for this tech startup, and I've been helping them develop software and basically functioning in the capacity of a product designer or product director, I guess. Director of product was the title. And it was a really cool opportunity. I mean, I had an opportunity to get in early and design some of the initial tools and things like that. Work with the team that they already had existing, dev team and things like that, and expose myself to a lot of things that honestly aren't my number one skill set.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I've grown up, I've built my business, done all this stuff in and around design and marketing and branding and all these kinds of things. And was put in a position where basically I was being asked to do a lot of things outside of my bandwidth or outside of my expertise, I guess I'd say. And so, the guy who hired me, or the CEO of the company, understood that when he hired me. But I think basically over time, just the startup's really small, it's really agile, and the needs changed. And unfortunately, I was a little bit hamstrung in the job to begin with. And I just don't think it was a perfect fit for my skills, and I wasn't able to grow fast enough. Sure. So myself and I believe along with a couple others have moved on from the company. And so, so that's unfortunate. I still think it's an awesome thing, and hopefully it works out great for them because it is a really cool product. But it required a lot of deep knowledge and information, and it just, unfortunately, either I'm a slow study or it's a really complex topic, but it took me a long time to kind of get up to speed there. So, so that's been a big pivot for us, because basically, I was pretty much all in on that for the last, 8 months, since like last May. And so now I'm basically just full-time back into my agency, which is probably for the best, and came with a bunch of resounding "I told you so's" from my wife, who's like, every time I go do something like this, whether it's this company or I go work for somebody else, or I go, become a fractional something somewhere or whatever, every time I do that and step away from my business, as soon as they get tired of me, they lay me off, they lose their funding, whatever, I end up getting cut. And then my wife's like, "Oh, okay, so now you get to start over again." And so that's kind of where we are. Luckily, I mean, as part of my arrangement with those guys, I did a lot of staffing work to make sure that I had people in place to kind of keep my business going while I was working
Sure.
here. Unfortunately, basically, we were absorbing all what was my income and pushing it out to freelancers and contractors to kind of keep things moving.
But so you kept it moving.
I have to claw back some of that.
Yeah.
But but my goal is to do as limited amount of clawing back as possible, and basically just add new business and try and get back to where I can thrive again and live off my own business. So that's been the big pivot. And so here in the first couple of weeks of January, we're taping this on the 23rd of January. So we're getting into late January at this point. I've had basically a couple weeks to really start, getting back into business development and talking to people again. And it's been, I don't know, it's almost kind of exciting just in the sense that, I kind of let a lot of that stuff go. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was able to hire people to kind of, keep design projects moving and keep existing clients happy and that kind of stuff. So I was able to trim my daily commitment to my company down quite a bit. Right. I was able to just kind of do my thing at this other company and not worry about it. So that was great. But the one thing I couldn't really staff for, or never actually got to staffing for or putting in place, was basically someone to replace me, which is somebody to do sales or to, attract new business. And, it's not a position I filled. So in leaving or sort of, going, quarter time in my company, a lot of the relationship building and the networking and all that stuff sort of went away because I was doing, 8 to 10 hours a day for the startup and then, a few hours in the evening for my business. And, so by the time it came to, hey, you should go to this networking event or, hey, we're going out to do this or that, it's like there's no time, no energy, no nothing left.
Yeah. So, having a family and going out to those kind of events is rough too.
Because it's hard enough to try and find time to do it, even though it's, critically important. I mean, obviously it's something I probably should have been doing the whole time. And, honestly, it probably would have benefited even the startup I was in, just, in terms of staying forward facing and being out meeting people. But unfortunately, I just, I was overwhelmed with the amount of work I had, and between that business and the business I was trying to keep afloat, there was nothing left in the tank. So there was a lot of months where I was pretty stressed out and hunched over and tired. And I think my wife is thrilled to see that that's not a problem anymore. Yeah. Of course, now financially everything's on fire, so we're trying to fix that. And so I imagine here in the next couple of weeks we'll get back on track and we'll be good to go. But it's been a few years since we had a lull like this. My business, or, a lot of people that are sort of small design agencies have a similar path, which is sort of things go up and down, and there's sort of this, scarcity and famine kind of thing where, you're either doing really well or you're doing really bad because you're either looking for work or not looking for work. And when you're not looking for work, then when work goes away, you don't have any work. And so and that's kind of where we are. The bottom of the trough is where we are presently. So we still have a couple existing clients, luckily. I mean, so there's some saving grace there and some silver lining, but it's, but we haven't been at the bottom of one of these troughs for several years now, 2-3 years at least, maybe since COVID, I guess. And, so it's, the company or the family is, having a hard adjustment to, losing lunches out and all these other kinds of things while we,
what? No Starbucks, Dad?
Yeah, no, and it's and it's funny too because really, I mean, we should be better fiscally all the time. You know what I mean? And our boys are involved in sports, and anybody that's got kids, I mean, sports are expensive, and if you want to be competitive in sports, you're doing a lot of stuff for sports outside of sports. And I won't belabor it here because we've talked about it before on the show, but but we spend an awful lot of money on trainings and coaches and events and, camps and this and that and all that stuff, on top of just, you can't buy cheap food anymore. I mean, like when we were kids, we could go to Taco Bell and get,
69-cent
you get like 6 tacos.
Bean burrito. Yeah. But, now a bean burrito is like $1.79. It's horrible.
Now I will always say my oldest son has kind of champagne taste. Even as a young child, it's not really champagne taste. It's champagne checkbook. But it's not champagne taste. But ever since he was a little kid, like he would just naturally gravitate to the most expensive thing on the menu. It was always the fajita or the steak plate or whatever. But like he always wanted the thing that was most expensive. In fact, it's kind of been a joke in our family. But now he's kind of like that, and it's like, oh, I'm going out with the friends to Taco Bell. Okay, cool. Here's $10. Go to Taco Bell. It's like,
I can't get anything for $10.
I'm going to order is $38.50. It's like at Taco Bell, And so it's anyway. So it's made for kind of I think a little bit of an awakening. Our son has just turned 18. He's going to start looking at college here pretty quick. He's dating somebody.
All
this
really?
stuff is going on at once. And it's like, I think now all of a sudden he's recognizing that job thing that me and his mom have been bringing up for a couple of years. I think all of a sudden it's making a little more sense to him. So
it's like, oh, I want to do stuff and I can't.
Yeah, he's like, I'd love to date, and we've reminded him a bunch of times. We're like, well, we're not seeing her, you are. So so this is your problem. So if you want to take her to dinner, well, you got to get money for dinner because we're not, and some
reality sucks, doesn't it?
I think there's a little bit of growing up happening right now. So anyway, so that's been it's been a little bit of a struggle. I mean, I think it's actually probably a good reset for our family. We can kind of reprioritize and cut out some of the things that aren't important. I mean, actually, the one thing that's been kind of the most ironic, or maybe not ironic, maybe that's not the right word for it, but it's like, so I come back from Christmas. I'm basically told, your last paycheck was your last paycheck. You're done. Everything's done. And
that's real shitty to do it like that, by the way.
Well, and I when I got the email, I mean, my language was like, bizarre that you would do it this way. I was like, we've worked together for 2.5 years, and you just were bored on the weekend and shot me an email to say we're done.
Yeah,
on I just Christmas. Thought it was. I thought I mean, minimally, I had hoped I deserved a little better than that.
Welcome to tech.
Yeah, I suspect it had something to do with the end of the tax year, and they just didn't want to roll me into 2025. Yeah. But if he was already thinking about this, I wish he'd have just told me a couple weeks sooner.
Yeah, so you could plan for it.
Well, it would have changed the way I spent money at Christmas. It would have changed the way. I mean, I could have planned for it.
Well, of course, they're not going to do that because they want you to work the last 2 weeks,
right?
But
and I get it. And I mean, there's sort of pros and cons to both ways and stuff. So I get it. But it's just like, I don't know. I think some of it's business, and a lot of people in Idaho, Utah, so these states, and I'm sure there are others, but these are called right to work states. So basically, they don't really have to give you any reason or whatever to fire you. Like it's just. You are here working at their behest, and if they decide they don't want to work with you anymore, they don't have to like give you cause or anything. So, but I mean, on the other side of the token, most employers would want a couple weeks notice if you were going to leave. And I was in an executive role at this company. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't know, like as a human courtesy, as a person who's worked with me and knows I'm professional and knows I'm not going to fly off at the handle or get insane about this. It's like, I don't know. You just, have a conversation with people. Let them know. And so I didn't really appreciate how it was handled. I was just kind of actually blown away by it. I was like, man, it's like, fine if you want to be done, but what a weird way to do it, And so anyway, so that was also unappreciated. But so right after the first of the year, though, our lease is running up on our old car. So we had to find a new car. And
when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, right. And so the car that we ended up getting, it was actually a fair bit cheaper than the one that we owned. So the one that we had it's called a Volvo XC90, and we loved it, and it was a great car and everything. And I've talked about it before, but Volvo for a while had this car subscription program that was maybe the coolest thing ever. In fact, it's the whole reason we were driving a Volvo was because of the subscription plan. Basically, it was like a lease, but with the lease, you got car insurance and roadside assistance and basically all your maintenance, everything rolled into one lease price, right? And that was our whole thing. For people who go back 4 or 5 years, you'll remember all the trauma from my BMW. And just
I forgot about that car. That
$45,000 in maintenance costs over the course of 3 years, and it was just like a nightmare. Yeah. So we got rid of that thing, and basically after trying to go to a bunch of car dealerships, this would have been COVID time, so like 2020, 2019. I had read something about Volvo and that you could maybe buy a car online, and that's exactly what we did. We just had a bunch of bad car dealer experiences, and so we ran to the web and clicked buy and got a Volvo. And we'd never driven one or anything, but we were just like, let's try this. So we did that, and it was awesome. And we had 2 Volvos since then. So we had the initial one and one more. And honestly, we'd have stayed with them, but like a month or 2 ago, we got a notice about that they were discontinuing the program. And
that sucks.
And so anyway, so they ended the program, and theoretically we could have stayed with Volvo, but because they had sort of gotten rid of this plan, it gave us the opportunity or the reason to go look around. And so we did some looking. We looked at some other cars and stuff, and what we ended up finding is called a Genesis GV80, I think is what it's called. It's their sort of full-size sport utility. It's like the same size as the Volvo. And it's a fancy-looking little car. I mean, it's kind of overly fancy for what it is. I mean, it looks like a Bentley or something, even though it's basically a fancy Hyundai. but it's it's beautiful. It's a really nice car. The tech is like wild. It's got so much stuff in it, way more actually than the Volvo does. And we got the top model, and it's quite a bit cheaper than the Volvo was. So we're saving a bunch of money off the lease and all kinds of stuff.
Well, nice.
So it actually works out good, but it's just like, I guess, ironic, or back to my bad use of ironic, in that right now we have a Volvo in the driveway and this new Genesis, and we're like rolling in new cars. And meanwhile, it's like, well, the credit card's going to bounce this month. So it's like, so it just kind of sucks, because it's like, I mean, we don't have a lot of option in it. We've got to trade off the car, so it is what it is. But
so when are they taking the Volvo back, or
we'll take it back this week?
Yeah.
The next payment would be due the 2nd, and they told us to try and get it in 5 days early. So we'll take it back today, tomorrow, Saturday, or something.
Nice.
So anyway, we'll take it back in the next couple of days, and luckily, like I say, our car payment will go down and stuff like that. Of course, now we have to pay for our own insurance, so it'll probably end up being 6s. But but just funny, the optics of it aren't right.
Yeah. No, it's vehicles are rough, because I'm at the point right now where I've had that green truck as long as I've known. Well, not as long as I've known you, but darn close.
So within a few years, yeah.
Yeah, it's pushing 350,000 miles on it now, and I almost sold it a month ago, and I didn't, because it's nice to have a car that the dog can jump in and not worry about destroying it. And
I like that somebody was ready to buy it at 300,000 miles.
Well, it was the canopy on it is worth more than the truck is. That's the sad part. I can literally, like, $1,500 for the truck is what I was asking for it. And just, it's worth $1,500. It still runs. It does its thing. But I pulled the canopy off, and it's listed for sale. But I'm looking for a new vehicle as well. And it's like, you look at trucks now, and they're like $100,000. And it's insanity, So, because I'm a DJ, like, I have no qualms about driving a cargo van. Like, I'll be that dude, and I'm just gonna look for a bigger cargo van that has towing capacity to tow, my trailer and gear, and then put another 300,000 miles on. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is crazy though, and it was interesting though in doing some car shopping and looking at this stuff, because there's actually, it's kind of a good time for cars. There's actually a lot of stuff out there that's pretty decent.
Yeah,
I did find though that just like in finding lease terms and stuff, it was a little bit challenging, because there's a lot of people. I don't know if it's just down to interest rates. Like, I'm not smart enough to understand why there's a difference, but like the sticker price on this GV80 was like 80,000, and then we got it down to like 77 or something like that.
Did you buy it or lease it?
We just leased it. And the reason we decided to lease it is because these cars have so much tech in them, but in 3 years when our lease is up, like, what's the tech going to be then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like these things are going to start basically going out of date like computers.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think there's a lot of value in owning it anymore, because it's just, if it doesn't have whatever the key technology is in 3 years, then, what's the resale going to be like on something like that?
Yeah.
So anyway, now, I mean, if we decide we love it and we want to keep it, we'll keep it. I mean, we tend to be, or prior to having our Volvo, we were always kind of the family that just drove stuff for like 10 years. So anyway, so we kind of did that too. Because I mean, I had my Suburban forever. I had a Honda for forever and ever.
Well, you still have that, the hamster. What's it called?
Our kid drives our old Kia Soul, and it's a 2010 with like 250,000 miles on it. So yeah, I mean, so we're not opposed to hanging on to a car if it's the right thing to do. But we were just looking at like the tech package of this thing and going, it's like stuff's good, but it's going to be better in a few years. And it's like, especially things like as it pertains to like self-driving and stuff like that. And it's like it probably will be worth it to just get a new one in a few years.
Yeah, well, and like, I mean, you never know what's going to change in 5 years, right? Like, is hydrogen going to actually come around, or is it, like?
Well, and one of the other big things too is just like, as it pertains to car technology and all that stuff. It's just, I mean, you don't know what the situation's going to be, but also just like pricing, like what's the cost of stuff going to be? Like, is it going to be cheaper to move into something else? Or like maybe there's an alternative fuel like you're talking about that, maybe you'd want a car that does something different like that. I don't know. It's made more sense to me to just kind of hang on to it for a little less time, I think. So
yeah.
And luckily, the residual value on it and stuff's pretty high and stuff like that. So hopefully it'll be fine. But it it's just it's kind of a weird thing. And like I said, this is our first attempt at a Hyundai either, or I should say, Genesis has broken away from Hyundai now, and so now it's its own brand. So
it's its own
Genesis.
brand.
But it's our first time driving
those Hyundais. Let me tell you, my buddy Todd, the dentist in Washington. He bought one in like an SUV kind of thing, and it's a nice little ride. It's, I mean, like back in the day, Hyundai had like a stigma to it, like like it's the cheap car, but they're not that cheap anymore.
And they really turned a corner. Like a lot of people don't remember or realize, but so like when the brand Kia started off, it was technically an American brand. They were building it all in the U.S. and it was considered an American car. In fact, the first couple models that they had a Kia Sophia and they had a Kia Sportage. And the Kia Sophia actually had a little American flag badge on the trunk. Like, I mean, it was like all about being made in America, but they were garbage cars.
Yeah, they were really bad. I used to work for Ford. I was a salesman for a little while, and I sold my buddy a Kia Sophia.
Yeah.
Right out of high school, it was a great car for him for about a year.
Yeah, and so they were really bad. So basically, after a couple years of thrashing around, they rolled out some other kind of fake luxury car and tried to make a nice car and stuff like that. I think it was called like the GS 300 or something. They had something else anyway, a third one, but they ended up getting bought by Hyundai. And when Hyundai started working on them, and then, or maybe Hyundai owned them before, but they were building them in America or something. I don't know. I'm not like a Kia scientist. But what ended up happening is at some point, Hyundai got a designer from the Audi team. And when he came on board to Hyundai, he changed the overall look of everything, and everything all of a sudden became cool looking. Yeah. And so everything on the Hyundai line, and then also because they owned Kia, they started refreshing all the Kias too. And so so you ended up with all of a sudden these really cool cars that looked great, that were designed by these German engineers and stuff that were doing Audis and BMWs. And even now you can see some of the things that were carried over from like the BMW designer specifically, and like the Kia Telluride. It has the same kind of knob configuration inside it and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
BMW. And, some of those early Audis, and I think that the Audi guy, and I'm probably making all this up, so don't run paper on it. But, I think that guy eventually left and went to Ford, because there's a era where the Ford Taurus and stuff like that had sort of the same front end as the Audis.
Yeah.
And I think that was after he'd left Hyundai. But
all I remember is in the Kia world, that hamster campaign was probably the best marketing campaign they could have done.
Sold us a car. My wife ran right down to the store and wanted that hamster car. So so we got one. And so anyway, but I mean, since then, I mean, it's years and years ago. That was like 2010 when we bought the Kia, and it was years before that when all this other stuff was going on. I mean, Kia and Hyundai, those guys have turned into like serious brands. Like the Kia cars are awesome. The Hyundai stuff is really nice. And Genesis for the long time was basically like, you've got Toyota, and then Toyota has the high end, which is Lexus. And so, but they're owned by each other, but they're separate brands. And so that's kind of what this is that Hyundai owns everything, but it's Hyundai and Genesis is now a private brand. For a while, they had a Hyundai Genesis, which was their like fancy Hyundai. And anyway, so now it's its own thing. So, so back to, whether or not we keep it, that was kind of the idea. It's just, we've never driven one. We don't know. Maybe we'll love it. Maybe we'll hate it.
Yeah.
So far it seems great. We took it to Boise over the last weekend, and it was, it was nice. So.
Anyway. Well, that's a good way to break it in, is put it on a road trip.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the thing. So we gave it a little trial, and it worked pretty good. So anyway, we're pretty happy with it so far. So, so one other thing, it just occurred to me that maybe we could get into here for a minute. It's just an opportunity for me to complain, but, but I've been threatening to complain for a little while. Yeah. So maybe it makes sense to just do it here with you, because you may have some thoughts about this. So we went to New York over the holidays. We took the boys out to New York. We took the boys to a New York Giants game, and then, our older son is the world's biggest Giants fan and has been forever. So we took him to his first Giants game. And then our younger son, we took him to a hockey game because he's a big hockey guy. So we went out to the New York Islanders game. So as we were planning to do all that stuff, so I was using a platform. I don't know if we should dox the platform. I don't know. It rhymes with seat cheat.
Oh, yeah.
And so anyway, so we use this company to buy aftermarket tickets, right? Because, we were coming in from out of town and we needed a place to buy tickets. And I will say, generally speaking, I've used this company for a lot and I've never had problems before this. But so I go and we buy game tickets and all that stuff. And those tickets turned out to be great. They're, perfect. But the one other thing I bought from them was parking pass. So I got on their website and I looked for parking. And I find a ticket for a parking garage that's right across the street from the arena. So I was like, perfect, I'll just get that. It was like $40 or whatever. So there's a weird little note in the thing that says 12 miles from arena. And I was like,
Wait,
but
what?
when you highlight it on the map, it's right in front. There's no address. It doesn't give you any information until you make the purchase, right?
Yeah.
So, but on this company's website, it shows, it highlights the location, which is this garage across the street from the venue. And, it says the address of that garage and all this stuff. And this is where the ticket is supposedly for. But there's this weird note in there, right? Yeah. I'm not from New York. I mean, I understand that, 12 miles could be far away, but the map they're showing me is this, right?
Yeah.
You're showing me this map. You're using the name of that garage in the listing.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And so I'm just like, whatever, I don't know. Maybe it's some weird rogue note, and it's not like there's live chat or anybody to talk to. It's just, best guess. Yeah. So, but they've got their, consumer protection guarantees and all this stuff. So I pull the trigger on that. A couple minutes later, I get an email. Says, here's your ticket. It's, it was the J.C. Penney West Wing parking garage in like some other town in New York.
Wow.
So 12 miles away, but 12 miles away, like near Manhattan. So, it's an hour and a half drive. You know what I mean? It's like 12 miles. But it's
same with Seattle. If you're 12 miles away in Seattle, that's a 45-minute Uber.
Yeah. I can do 12 minutes here and 15 or 12 miles here in 10 or 15 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
But in New York, basically, this garage was sort of either on Manhattan or near Manhattan, and we were all the way down, and I think it's the Bronx or someplace like that where the UBS Stadium is.
You probably paid more to get from there to the game than you did for the parking pass that you paid for.
Well, I would have. So we ended up, or after I see all this stuff, I immediately report it, right? And in fact, later I got the link, here we've delivered your ticket or whatever, but I actually never accepted the ticket because I was like, okay, this is a scam. Somebody's lying. They're putting this thing on here. They're saying it's in this garage. It's not in this garage, whatever. I'll just report it and it won't be a big deal. So I report it to their tech support people or to their customer service people, and they start investigating. I start working with a guy that seems pretty reasonable, and he's like, okay, I've got all the information I think I need. I sent him some screen grabs and stuff of what was going on and what it showed and what the the address it was showing and the property that was highlighted and all the things. And he's like, okay, good to go. He's like, I'll elevate this up and get back with you. I was like, okay, cool. And so in the meantime, I go buy another parking pass because I'm like, okay, this one's no bueno. And I ended up paying, I only paid like $40, maybe like 50 with fees for that one.
Yeah.
But I ended up paying like $100 for silver parking at the stadium. I was just like, I'm not going to dink around with it.
Not going to mess around with it.
Yeah. A car. So I was like, we've got to have a place to park. So so we go ahead and buy another parking pass. That one comes over. It's authentic and it gets us into the spot. No problem. So then, a week goes by and I haven't heard back from these dudes. And so I jump back on and I go another round with them. Hey, this is the reference number. We were talking about this. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this. Oh, they declined it. They said, we're not going to refund your money. You bought a ticket. You paid for a ticket. Somebody sent you a ticket. Here's a ticket. So there's nothing wrong with it. And I was like, well, yeah, but except for that it's fraud. It's like, you guys said it was here. Your system said in the notes that it was at this address and it was here. It's like, yeah, but did you see there was a note there that said like 7 miles from the stadium or something? Yeah. And I was like, well, yeah, I saw that, but it was out of context. It doesn't mean anything because you told me that this is the address of the venue and this is the location of it on a map. And it didn't line up. So when this person sent me the pass, it was for a useless garage, a million miles away. And so we go round after round. We end up elevating this to, customer support 3 or 4 times. And, comes back, no, we're not doing it. And so then I started asking myself, and I was just thinking, and this kind of becomes a broader customer service question, right? Like, I can't imagine that like return requests are super rampant. Like maybe they are, and maybe there's way more of it, but I think generally speaking, unless the ticket's like totally fraudulent or whatever, it's like if you bought a Taylor Swift ticket, you wanted to go to the show, like you're going to watch it, you know, or whatever you're buying on there, right? And so it's like, so I think generally speaking, if you buy stuff, you're probably good with it, you know. Now there might be the occasional person that's like, oh, I want to exchange it. I found a better ticket or a better price or whatever. There's probably some of that, but I think generally speaking, I can't imagine they get a ton of people that are like, no, this one's fraud. Like you flat out sold me something that isn't what you said it was. And, you know, I would think anyway that they do better about that. And so I just got thinking though, and I was like, okay, we've done 5 rounds of this over 2 weeks.
Over $40.
Over $40.
Yeah.
And so
but it's a matter of principle at this point,
so
though.
Like,
it's not the money.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, so you're willing though to burn, I don't know, hundreds of dollars in your own payroll.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm bothering your tech support people and they're bothering their supervisors, and, you know, and I'm sure they're in Pakistan or something and they're not being paid, you know, a lot, but whatever it is. I mean, okay, so you've definitely spent, let's say it's just $40. Okay. You've definitely spent $40 defending that $40, you know, then you factor in my time and how much of my time you've wasted in me doing this. And every time I report it again, I'm having to re-upload all the screenshots again and, you know, all this stuff. You know, and you're making me provide all this documentation and stuff instead of just going to the vendor and saying, well, why are you selling tickets and lying about the location? But, you know, because they sell secondhand or third party tickets and stuff. Yeah. And so it just became this whole thing that really got me thinking about just sort of customer service in general, sort of the state of things. And like that a company like that, I mean, does enormous amount of volume of stuff. They also, I mean, grossly overcharge everybody by taking atrocious fees and everything. All these companies do, not them, but they all.
Any ticketing company out there
they all do it, and it's become just gross. I mean, and half the time the fees cost more than the ticket.
Yeah,
and it's just, I mean, it's atrocious. So the whole situation is bad. And I'm like, but the hill you die on is $40 on a fraudulent ticket.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what kind of business model is this? You know what I mean? And so, but it just got me thinking about generally how like all the customer experiences that I encounter these days are kind of crappy. And it seems like, you know, with rare exceptions, obviously, I mean, there's certainly good people out there still, but it's like, it seems like we've slipped into a world where we're okay taking less. Like, does that make sense? Like we pay a lot more for everything, but we actually get way less than we used to get.
Yeah.
In terms of just the way we're treated, the way the businesses treat us, the way that, you know, just everything. And it feels like kind of a global phenomenon or something. Like this ticket issue is just a microcosm of something bigger.
They don't care about us. They care about the product. They don't even care about the product in some cases. But
well, and I was going to say, like in this sense, I mean, like I would be totally willing to never use them again.
Yeah.
And go use some other ticketing service. I mean, they're all doing the same stuff, you know?
Yeah. But the thing is everyone's just as bad. And so it's like, you know, which rotten fruit do you want to eat? You know, and it's like Ticketmaster and these guys, like when they charge $30-$40 on top of a ticket that costs them literally nothing, and they own them, it's a monopoly. They own all the concert venues, so any band that wants to play in these big venues has to go through them, has to pay their fees, and has to deal with their bullshit. That's the problem. There really needs to be an alternative out there that's not, you know, it's like having 3 insurance agencies that all get to set their rate, and they base it off of each other, and there's no competition anymore for any customer service to even be an equation, because you have this pile of shit, and this pile of shit. Which one do you want to eat?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think, you know, especially for like, you know, the talent in this situation, you know, so, I mean, in this case it was a parking pass, but I mean like, but if you're the artist, you know, I mean, after years and years and years, decades of the music industry kind of robbing artists, right? Like,
look at Spotify. Who's the most paid person out of all the musicians in like the Spotify catalog, everyone on that music? The CEO is making 3 times that what, like, you know, Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande and all these top people combined, and his annual pay is more than them, than what Spotify's paying.
So literally their product.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And
you know, and I mean, for years, I mean, you and I, you know, were around the music business years ago. And I mean, you know, there were all kinds of shady deals, weird 360 deals, stuff like that, where they were taking.
Well, okay. So
you know,
let's take the Jimmy Eat World concert, right?
Yeah.
When I promoted that show, we sold about 4,000 tickets. And those tickets, with the deal that we made with the band, I didn't make hardly any money off of the ticket sales. Where I made money was off of the fee, because that wasn't part of the split. So there was like a $15 fee on top of the ticket price. It wasn't 30, it wasn't 40, it wasn't what they're doing, but that was where the promoter makes the money, is the fees.
Yeah.
Now it's getting to the point where the promoter's getting their 15, 20%, the ticket master's getting their 30%. The $30 ticket is now $120 for all the little shitheads like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's horrible. And it's the state of everything right now. You look at that, you look at insurance, you look at like everything that's going on, is just like, here, let's see if we can get another $15 out of them. And who cares about if they're happy or not, because it doesn't matter. Yeah.
If they want to see Tay-Tay, they're going to pay. And, and that's kind of the thing, is like, I mean, and I just, for a while I was feeling for the artists, because I was like, after years of being screwed, the way that artists started to make money was by touring.
And
so
merch.
They would go on the road and they'd sell merch and they'd do all this kind of stuff, and they'd make money for playing shows and stuff like that.
If you buy one CD at a concert, that's more than like, was it 1,000 or 15,000 plays or something like that, that the artist gets. So they can't live off a Spotify playlist.
And I know that even on like, low end deals, like, one of the Mix Mob's old deals, I mean, they were getting like 29 cents off of every CD sold. The rest was going back to the label. And it was like, so it's just, the whole system sucked. And then, so they break out, they start doing a lot more things independently and doing all their own stuff. And so they can charge more. So the artists can make more now, but now everybody's tacking on so many fees that it's really negatively, affecting us, consumers.
Yeah.
It just, and especially when it's monopolized to the extent that, the way that you buy your tickets, for whatever, if Ticketmaster owns it, it's Ticketmaster's, like there's not another way in. It's not like you can just go buy it, from the box office or whatever. Like you need to buy it.
You used to have third party, and I don't know if they're still around, but like Smith Ticks in Salt Lake I love that.
Big, around, I think. Yeah.
Like the smaller ticketing companies that, you can have these, 300, 400 cap venues that don't have to go through the corporate bullshit that Ticketmaster is.
Yeah.
And, I think more of that needs to happen. Like the big stadium shows, whatever. Like I don't even enjoy those, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The 4,000, 3,000 cap venues, that's about as big as I want to go to a show.
I'd rather go see a band play to 300 people than to 3,000 people or 30,000 people.
Yeah.
Like the intimacy of the performance and just everything else is so much better.
When you get that big stage and you got people 400 feet away, or, you just, if you have to project the person playing on a big screen TV so everyone can see what he's doing, it pulls that out of the equation, the intimacy.
At that point, you just well be home watching it on TV or something. Yeah. Everybody's got a good sound system at home these days. Just do it that way.
So,
because it sort of sucks all the personal experience out of it. And I get it. It's hard, because some artists get big and it's just how they do it is, they fill an arena instead. But, it's just, I don't know. It's not the kind of experience that I enjoy. But anyway, I just had all those thoughts about sort of customer service and how bad things have gotten. That it's just like, and just the cost of everything, really. It's just everything is rough. But I felt like what was going on with this ticketing company was a little bit predatory, felt a little nasty. And then it was like the goodwill of investing the $40 in refunding me and kicking that person who's selling bum tickets off of your platform. Seems like a better use of money than paying your customer service people $40 to tell me no. And
keep that $40. Yeah.
Right. It's like you'd be better off making me the happiest guy on the planet who knows that my purchase is safe and secure with you, who knows that when something is fraudulent or bum, you're going to make it right. All that stuff. Like it would go so much further. I'd spend hundreds of dollars more. Now I've got to be more vigilant. I got to make sure that I'm not getting robbed. I got to, second guess everything I'm doing, now to make sure that if I have to order a ticket through them again, to be sure that it's, legit.
Yeah.
And it's like the onus shouldn't be on me. I should be able to trust you as a platform that you're allowing,
well, and the biggest problem with a company like that, it's all those tickets were available to the general public to begin with, and now they're reselling them for twice what they were originally available. And they buy them instantly, knowing that they can resell them and make a profit. That right there is the problem.
Yeah,
That should not be an option. You know,
well, I know that's the case. I mean, there's a lot of these places, you know, where you'll do try and go to a concert or something. You know, there was a big one came through town not too long ago, and it was like, as soon as you go to buy tickets for it, it's already half sold.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you can't even buy a close seat or whatever because you weren't in some club or some credit card
pre-sale
or some whatever, you know, so the best tickets you can get are kind of the bad tickets at the back of the room, you know, and it's like, so unless you're, you know, a VIP or you're paying, you know, somebody something, you can't hardly just like, you know, it used to be like you could wait online or you could, you know, get in queue early and try and catch a good ticket or something.
Or God forbid, go to the venue and buy a ticket there.
Yeah, right. But but now you just can't do any of it. And it's, it's just a real shame because I think that,
well, the thing that gets me is experience. Like back in the day you'd go, and I'm sure this still happens, but like when I went to the Chicago and went to a game there, a baseball game, I literally just got off the subway, found a guy selling a ticket out front, gave him $40 cash, went and sat behind the first baseline, you know, and that guy selling the ticket out front can actually get arrested for selling that ticket, but he can go to that website and resell it totally fine.
Right.
You know, that right there is just, it's like
the fact that you can digitally scalp, but you can't physically scalp is bizarre.
And the sports betting right now, that should be illegal too. I mean, like the fact that they're running ads in the middle of the NFL games and bet on this, bet on that, you know, it's like, you got people losing their homes and they don't give a shit. You know, it's like, I don't know. The state of everything right now is.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. And it's funny because I would generally consider myself, I'm a capitalist. I generally, you know, look toward, I mean, even just on the show, I mean, all we do is highlight entrepreneurs and we've all done, you know, our little stabs at having businesses and stuff over the years. And so it's like, so generally like I'm on board with that kind of attitude. But I was in a conversation earlier today about people talking about sort of, you know, has the notion of personal branding screwed everything up where now just an interaction with another person online is tainted, right? Because basically every interaction you have is now I'm positioning myself so I look a certain way. I'm not going to say things in a certain way because I don't want to be canceled or judged or whatever. Yeah. You know, like even if that is who you are, you're going to obscure that. And so everybody's kind of putting on this performance, whether you're overtly being a personal brand or you're just, you know, the way you carry yourself online. It's just created a world of people who behave a little differently, right? And like I can tell you right now from hanging out with 13-year-olds, because my youngest son's 13, like they don't talk like we used to talk. They don't treat each other the way that we used to treat each other. They don't hang out in the same way we used to. And our son's actually kind of an old soul. Like he'll pick up a phone and have a phone call with his friends,
which I love.
Most of those people don't do that. They text or
you used to have to call and talk to their parents to get to talk to your friend. And now it's like they don't even call. They jump on Facebook or Instagram or Snap or whatever.
The thing. And I don't want to be, you know, full get off my yard guy.
I do.
Like I understand times change and
I want to be
like
that guy.
So I'm trying not to be that guy, even though I find I'm more that guy every year. But you know, but it's like
embrace it, Ryan. Embrace it.
I've just noticed like with consumerism, because I actually worry about it just like in time going forward. Even it's like, you know, you've got all these people promising lowering prices and stuff like that, and then just the dirty part of my mind goes, oh well, these guys figured out they could get $9 for eggs. Why are they going to sell them for $3?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why would you do that? You're just cutting off all your profit for no reason. You know, now you know people will pay this for it. So it's like,
and they make this excuse like, oh, the avian bird flu or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Yeah, it's always something.
They make that excuse, and then, oh, I guess I have to pay the $9 because I want eggs. You know, it's like, if people just said fuck it and didn't pay the $9, they would lower their prices right back down because.
Well, you made a good point earlier, and it is maybe it's kind of the heart of this thing, and maybe it's the thing to sort of, you know, end this conversation on, which is sort of this notion of competition and just sort of bringing that back. Because I think that one of the things that's gone away, to your point earlier about insurance companies and everybody just kind of setting it against one another, they're not setting it about what's competitive in the marketplace. It's just like, oh, okay, well, these guys are that high, so we could be that high, and then we'll be that high too. And, you know, and there's not like, you know, and I realize there are a lot of things to compete on besides just price, but it's like, there's very little competition across things. You know what I mean? Like, people don't have to work very hard. Now, sometimes they'll have a better feature, or they'll hit you with marketing that works better, or, you know,
if it's a better product, you bet your ass I'll pay more for it.
Yeah,
but
course.
If it's a piece of crap, just like the other thing, and you send me a piece of crap and I paid the premium for it, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of this, I'll steal a Einsteinian term because we're having genius conversation here, but it's this idea, it's sort of like this theory of everything. It's everything is becoming super homogenized. Everything is becoming the same. I always equate it. I have a love-hate relationship with Costco.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of things I like there, but like when it really struck me a few years ago, they were selling Lucky jeans.
Yeah.
And back in the old days, I loved Lucky jeans. I thought they were awesome, but they were kind of expensive. And, but they had a certain cut. They were like a fashion jean, they looked nice on people and stuff like that. But then you can buy Lucky jeans at Costco, and they're straight leg, and they're cut for everybody, not just your body or fashion body or whatever. They're all cut for just the generic human being. And it sort of occurred to me, and it's just like, this is kind of what we've built to for all our technological advancement and all our moving forward and evolving and becoming bigger, better, brighter. What we've actually done is just gotten more and more and more towards the middle, and like there's kind of nothing all that unique anymore.
So
with rare exceptions, obviously.
When Etsy blew up, remember when Etsy was like the coolest thing? Everyone was, finding cool stuff on Etsy.
Yeah.
You want to know why it blew up?
Yeah.
Because makers made the product, and it was different, and it was unique, and it was cool, and it was handmade. Yeah. Now you jump on Etsy, and it's all a bunch of shit from, manufactured stuff that, it might be a little bit different, but you order it and it's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
There's a reason you go to a farmer's market instead of like a
big grocery store chain or something.
You're going for that handcrafted, and I honestly think if, someone put another Etsy out there and only allowed handmade products, I think it would do great.
Yeah, and there probably are platforms like that. We should find some and blow them up.
Yeah.
But it's something that I just keep stumbling on this over and over again. And it's funny because I wrote articles on this like forever ago, this idea of sort of a technological saturation, or that that the real secret of life is all about in real life. Like, this is where everything really is. And in this conversation I was having on LinkedIn about the personal branding, that was sort of my finishing point, was that like, for all this stuff online, for all the AI, for all the technologies, for all that stuff, I think in real life is still best.
Yeah.
And I think social media is our best current effort at in real life at scale. And I think you can have wins, and I think you can have losses, and I think everything can happen online too. But I don't think it's ever going to trump in real life. And so to your point about Etsy, the in real life stuff, the real things that were crafted by a person, those were what made Etsy special. Yeah. And, being able to, or exclusivity around my Lucky jeans. You have to go to like a fancy store to go get your Lucky jeans versus being able to buy them off of pile at Costco.
Well,
like, the
other thing, right? Yeah. You go and you see you find a cool T-shirt on Instagram, right? I've done this twice now. And it'd be like, oh, that's a really cool design, and I would actually rock that. Then the T-shirt shows up, and it's the thinnest material. It's nasty. It doesn't fit right. It's like, I like the design, but it doesn't fit me. It's like the whole, that seems to be the thing now, is like you're used to getting garbage. And when it comes, it's like, well, that was I expected that. I guess I won't buy anything.
And like, I understand, at least on the business side, you go, okay, well, maybe they needed to use a more inexpensive T-shirt, or they needed to do whatever. So like, I understand that there's some of that, but I think there's a pride or an ownership or something missing, where we've gotten so commoditized that people don't put any value in anything. I mean, you gave them $20, $30 maybe today, $30, $40 even for a T-shirt nowadays.
Yeah.
And this company doesn't care enough about its product to make sure that you're getting $40 worth.
Yeah.
Instead, they're trying to chip away and, put it on the cheapest blank and use the cheapest ink and use the cheapest whatever, so to maximize their profits, which, I mean, I guess is consumerism, or is capitalism. But at the same time, it's like kind of the gross part of capitalism.
Yeah.
And it's like, everybody needs to be able to make money. Everybody's trying to run a business. Everybody's trying to feed their kids or whatever. Like, I get all that, but it's just like, but you got to have a little bit of ownership or a little bit of pride, or like have empathy for the person who's buying your thing and go, okay, well, this guy Mike in Idaho bought my shirt, and I don't want him to think it's a piece of shit. I want him to come back and buy 3 more shirts.
Well, that's the thing. It's
know?
like, have you ever heard of Christo Cat? You know, that guy? He does these really cool kind of like Latin vibe kind of T-shirts that are, he screen prints them all himself. I saw a really cool design that I liked, and it was like, all right, I'll give this a try. I bought it directly from him. It showed up, had really cool marketing, really cool packaging, and the product was great. What did I do? I turned around and bought 2 more shirts because I knew that it was going to be a quality product.
Well, there's a company, you know? I mean, if you've been watching the show for the last little while, like, I mean, I've been wearing a lot of these like sweaters, these crew neck sweaters. There's a company called Elwood, and I have found that I like their sweaters. And so I've got one in like every color now, and they're expensive, you know, I mean, they're kind of spendy for like a crew neck hoodie. Yeah. But, well, I guess they're not hoodie, but crew neck sweatshirt. And, you know, but it's exactly that. I got the first one. It was nicely wrapped. It came fast. It had nice tags and labels. Felt good to own it, right? It didn't feel like I just plucked it off a shelf at Costco or Walmart or something.
Well, like,
and you
know, I literally have, because I'm packing right now, getting ready to get everything put away. I have all my old Apple laptop boxes, my Magic Mouse box, my keyboard box. The packaging on something when it's quality, you want to hang on to it. It's almost like this is too nice to throw away. Yeah. And really, that's kind of like
boxes coming out my ears.
That's actually kind of a problem too, because it seems like, for me, it seems like it's almost a waste of resources. But at the same time, you appreciate it when you open it, when you take that thing
right?
off.
If you're going
to
buy $1,000, or now, God, they're closer to $2,000 phone. Yeah. You know, you want it to come in a nice box, right? If it came in some shitty box, you'd be like, ooh, what is this? Like, I just paid a lot of money for that thing, and it came in like this rickety old box. Yeah. You know, and so, I mean, so I understand why they do what they're doing, right? I mean, there's a perception you're trying to pass. And the idea is that I mean, that is, I guess, good customer experience in the sense that you get this beautiful box, and it's in fact so nice that you're going to hang on to it, even though you'll never use that box again for anything. Yeah. You know, it's not even sturdy enough to hold up the short leg on the couch or anything. It's just nothing. It's going to sit in a drawer until you eventually throw it away.
Yeah. But, well, that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm burning
maybe they're doing something good for the earth because it's delayed throwing everything away. So you're throwing away your iPhone 12 box now, you know, so you delayed having to throw that into a landfill somewhere. But it's like, but you know, so like, I understand some of that. And it's like, you know, I mean, a big perception is everything. I mean, it was kind of a dumb thing, but like when we picked up this new car, they put it in, they have like a little showroom area where they set it, you know, for people to come get their cars, and they put a big bow on it. Yeah. You know, and I was just like, you know, I mean, it's like you see in the TV commercials, right? When you go, who the hell is buying their wife a Mercedes for Christmas? Yeah. You know, it was like that though. Like, so we showed up to pick it up, and it, you know, had been cleaned, and it was beautiful, and it had this big bow on it and all this stuff. And it was like, this is the kind of bespoke experience you'd want when you're buying a nice car. If I was buying a Toyota Camry,
I don't know,
a bow on it.
The vending machine Carvana thing seems pretty cool too.
That is pretty cool. But see, that's a gimmick. It's cool for a different reason. So, but anyway, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, there's definitely rights and wrong ways to do it, but I just kind of wanted to vet that thing with you, the ticket thing, just because I knew that you'd have opinions on that with your relationship with the ticketing companies and stuff like that.
My cynicism comes out. It just totally.
Well, it's funny. I mean, just in like every living thing. I mean, even you know, we really discovered this in trying to get our son recruited to play football. I mean, like, we contacted hundreds of schools all over the country using a tool that was very expensive to do that. And, you know, we jumped through all the hoops. We filled out every questionnaire. We did all that stuff. And the only people who offered him were the schools that we spoke to in person and developed a relationship with.
100%.
And to be totally honest, I think the rest is kind of nonsense. Yeah. I think that if you don't have, and you know, it can come through different ways. Like in a lot of high schools, for example, you might have a coach who's really active and knows the college coaches, and he's, you know, pushing his boys to those guys to go play. There's a school near here that, you know, he's got some really good relationships, and he's getting his kids recruited into schools. Meanwhile, our school got 0 high school seniors recruited. Yeah. You know, and it's like, okay, well, so our team or our staff isn't doing what they should be doing as far as helping these kids get to the next level. So we tried to pick up the slack and do it, but it's impersonal, right? You're just meeting people on Twitter or whatever. Like, it's pretty hard.
It's like someone sending you a cold email saying, hey, I've got this. Well, let's use the example that we get all the time. Let's help your SEO on your YouTube account. We can totally do that. You know, it's like, do I trust you?
I don't know you. I don't like
yeah.
you. I don't trust you. You
Yeah.
know, you haven't checked any of the criteria. And so it's like, I just can't get on board with you. And it's, you know, and so, I mean, really, you know, when I got thinking about it to that, you know, in that way, I was going, well, of course, these college coaches have all these dumb parents that paid for this big, expensive platform, sending them emails day in and day out about how amazing their kid is. And it's like, okay, you're one of 100 I got today.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but I don't know anybody that knows your kid. I can look at your film and be like, okay, yeah, you're as good as anybody I'm looking at, but like, you know, I don't know. Are you? And I know
that's
the kid down the block. I've seen him play a few times. I think he'd be good enough. I'll just take him.
It's one, you know, your son is a good player, and it's not like he doesn't have the talent or the grades.
Oh yeah, no,
It's
of course,
just
he could
that,
for sure do it.
yeah,
So, but yeah,
yeah.
it's just that though. I think it just boils down to the relationships. And unfortunately for our oldest, like we got started in his recruiting journey late. Like we didn't know what we didn't know, and we hadn't really done it. And so we really only had about a year of focused effort on trying to get him recruited. And, you know, and we found him some offers. I think ultimately he's just going to go to school, and, you know, none of the offers were so compelling that he wants to push it, I don't think. But
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we got him some offers. He could have gone and played college football if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But so that's a win, I think, for us. But, you know, like I say, I mean, out of the hundreds of schools, the only one that, you know, or the first one to offer him was a school that he had texted with the coach, and the coach was from this area and he was familiar with the schools. And, you know, even though he's living in the schools up in Oregon. And so like, even though he's in Oregon now, he's recruiting Utah because he's from Utah, and he knows Utah players and he knows Utah schools, and he was aware of Ethan's role at his school versus, you know, these other schools and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, but it all came from a human relationship, you know. They were recruiting another kid on his team, and, you know, that kid was a friend of Ethan's, and that kid was like, hey, you should meet Ethan, you know, and all this stuff. And it's like, you know, it just like, it all starts to come together, but like, that's how you get a new job. That's how you sell a product. That's how you do anything. Right. I mean, it's like, so even though I think, you know, we rely a lot on platforms like LinkedIn and social media and stuff like that to try and.
My dog has to go out. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Dude,
Keep
I'm
talking.
like totally. Yeah. No,
He's like,
anyway,
I gotta
Mike
go.
takes his dog out. I'll just kind of finish the thought, which is, you know, I think that at the end of the day, what we're going to uncover is that really doing all this stuff, it feels like you're doing a lot, but I don't think you're really doing that much. Not to say that some people aren't successful and that some people don't find a way, but I just don't think that I don't think we should be cutting off human relationships in lieu of online relationships, I guess, is the moral of the story.
Yeah. And the thing is like, so personal branding for me is something that when I actually took on a DJ name, like, oh, I'm going to be DJ Ontic. What does Ontic mean? Why do I want to be called that? What, you know, and it, like, when I'm playing clubs, I'm playing, you know, these different venues, I can be a little brash. I can be a little, you know, like, you know, post something that's a little controversial on Instagram and all that stuff. But when it comes to weddings and it comes to a professional life, you have to think about, what is this brand? What is this that I'm posting? Is this going to help my image? So you do have to filter yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and I understand it, at least from the perspective of that, right? Which is, hey, I'm trying to be professional. I want to put off a professional image. I don't want to, you know, people don't need to know me for me. They need to be able to trust that I will do a good job at their event. Yeah. And so, like, I understand it. So I'm not saying that it's wrong that people put up this front or look a certain way or act a certain way. It just has created a world where people behave in a weird way.
Yeah.
And like the way that we're conditioned to behave online, you know, because we're afraid or whatever, it's all because we're like hedging our bets, or we're hedging ourselves against the way that we would talk to a person in real life.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, if you met a business prospect in real life or somebody that was interested in hiring a DJ, you're not going to curse at them or call them anything weird or, you know, tell them some, you know, uncouth story or something. Like, I mean, you know, you're going to treat them like a professional and you're going to talk to them. And that's what we're trying to do online. But I think sometimes it just starts to feel a little like a performance.
Yeah. And I agree with that. A lot of it is performance. A lot of it is look at me kind of thing, when really it's, you know, like if you can get like my portfolio, for example, I finally have it kind of to a point where I can send it to someone and I don't feel like, oh, they're going to think less of me because it's not as, like, my very first portfolio for software was not good. Right. But now it's, over time, I built it up. It's nice. I have a good, you know, brand to where I can send it and it gets the point across that I'm a professional. And then when I can actually talk with someone, oh, by the way, I'm starting a new job in April. Yeah. So I guess we can discuss that another time, but just being able to send that over with my resume, and then they have a visual of what I'm capable of. And it kind of opens the doors for questions. They're like, oh, why is Gail Miller a photo of her on your portfolio? Oh, because we did this event with her, whatever. It starts a dialogue for when you have the interview, and if you can be authentic and have a real conversation with the person you're having the interview with, instead of, here's my resume, read it, it goes a lot further to be a real person and have a real conversation.
Yeah, no, so. I think that's right. And I think, obviously there's a line we're walking here, and really a lot of this tech is still pretty new, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate it, even though a lot of it feels like old hat now. And I couldn't argue that people don't make money online, or that people, haven't made fortunes online. So for sure there's a value there. People can do stuff. Yeah. But I don't know. I just find more for me, and maybe this goes back to me being the get off my lawn guy. I just find that the more I watch this happen, the more I just go, man, I just don't want anything to do with it. I just want to get back to making people happy and building awesome brands that, will help their companies do well. And, I want to have a deep relationship with them. I'm not looking for a transactional, here, I've got $500, you do this thing, and then we'll never talk again. Yeah. I would really rather be a partner in their success than, just kind of a one-off, little quick, here's $500 kind of thing. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. I just, I guess both sides are valuable, but obviously I lean more towards the.
So I never really appreciated that until, because weddings, they only get married once, but there's, 30 people in the reception who are that same age, who can all, so actually networking and becoming their friends, and that actually opens more doors, because, they're going to, oh, DJ Mike, yeah, he's cool. Yeah, you got to hire him. It's like, if you just think of it as the transactional nature, whereas this one-time thing, you're leaving a lot of fruit on the tree, so yep. You just got to, I don't know, we can what ifs till the end of time, but yeah.
Today, but I think it was good to talk about it. Yeah. So cool, dude. All right. Well, we've been on for a little more than an hour, so we probably ought to let the fine folks go. But thanks to everybody who tunes into the show this week and every week. We greatly appreciate you. Feel free to engage with the show. Send us a note, reach out. If you've got people you'd like to see on the show or you want us to interview, feel free to make introductions.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Happy to hear all that stuff or ask questions or any of those sorts of things. We're also starting to think a little bit about doing some live events or some Ask Me Anything type things, where maybe we'll bring in a guest and do a little Q&A session. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, feel free to reach out and let us know. And other than that, just thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So cool. Thanks, Mikey. We'll see you. This is a perfect